Hello, we are live now, streaming live at Vimeo, YouTube, and all so many different places. This is I Need Living Conversations, 95th session of I Need Living Conversations, second session of Constitute branch of the Great Principle. And here I am with Sacred Blue Heron Woman from Indianola, Oklahoma, and I'm Julian Catari from Veracruz, and we are set and ready to begin this session. Do we have words of the old ones?
No, the words of the old ones are coming through right now, what I'm preparing every week. They've not brought anything specific. That's amazing. You said 95?
Right.
So if there's 52 weeks in a year, 2 years would be 104. So we're 9 weeks off of 2 years of doing this consecutively with only 2 misses.
Right.
That's pretty amazing.
We gotta do something special for the 100th or something.
Yeah, we've got to. Yeah, for sure. So let's start down the creation branch again. So before cells, there were cell-like systems. And no DNA, no piece of DNA, no gene replicates outside the cell of which it is a part. Nor does any virus make more of itself without inhabiting a live cell. So no one claims to have yet solved the problem of the origin of life because of this. No one can explain this. So although we cannot create cells from chemicals, cell-like membranous enclosures form as naturally as bubbles when oil is shaken with water. So pre-life, with a suitable source of energy inside a greasy membrane, grew chemically complex. So a source of energy inside a greasy membrane, that's the origin of life. How do we like that? Energy inside a greasy membrane. The greasy membrane bags grew and developed self-maintenance through exchange of parts. They maintained their structure in a more or less increasingly faithful way. Energy, of course, was still required. Energy flow led to the selfhood that became self-life. And the most stable of these droplets survived the longest and eventually retained their form by incessant interchange of parts with their environment. With their environment. That's the story of the sustenance of life. As the material stuff from which all living bodies are made, we have been around since the origin of the universe. The matter in the bodies of all life forms can be traced to carbon, nitrogen, oxygen, and other elements that were made in the supernova explosion of stars or the singing of the three goddesses. Goddesses, gods. And I'm not going to keep saying goddesses, gods, because the word goddess encompasses God also. So I don't feel like I need to designate that anymore. So when I say goddess, I mean both God and goddess. So at first it may seem improbable to us that life on Earth today is the progeny of a single ancient bacterium. But we must remember that we were once a single cell, a fertilized zygote that reproduced by division to become an embryo in our mother's womb. And 9 months later, we were a crying infant in her arms. So if in 9 months, a single fertile egg can become a pudgy, defenseless, uncoordinated human, is it not easily conceivable that all life forms arose from a single bacterium?
Yeah.
The minimal, what? Sorry.
I think it's just miraculous. It's so incredible.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, to think and put it that way, a single cell to 9 months later, a pudgy, defenseless crying infant. Yeah. So at first, the minimal cells of the tiniest bacteria which are about 1/10 millionth of a meter in diameter, never stop their metabolism. This simply means they continuously undergo hundreds of chemical transformations. They are fully alive and very much like us. They continuously metabolize using the same components we do, which are proteins, fats, vitamins, nucleic acids, sugars, and other carbohydrates. So even the simplest bacteria is extremely complex, yet its inner workings are still like those of larger life. So all life, since its origin, has been similar to its brethren, other life forms. All life forms never stop using energy to take up food, balance their salts, make DNA, RNA, proteins, and convert one chemical to another to keep themselves going. All life forms also emphatically differentiate themselves from their surroundings, and the odds for the emergence of startlingly self-maintaining systems increase with a tendency towards complexity. So to space, time, and causality in biology, we can now add memory, because all life has chemical memory and metabolic memory. Because certain carbon chemical metabolic pathways are absolutely necessary for all metabolism, the earliest ones that underlie the cellular phenomenon of self-maintenance were present from the beginning. The chemical interactions of carbon, nitrogen, sulfur, and phosphorus, upon which all metabolism is based, must be retained in cells at all times. Otherwise, any cell will die if its universally required metabolites are hampered.
Mhm.
So chemical systems in nature that become more and more complex, even if they are capable of making more of themselves, are not necessarily alive. Such systems are called autocatalytic. An autocatalytic system is a cyclical series of interlocking reactions whose end product is the same as its starting point. The Ouroboros. Its end product is the same as its starting point. We could call these autocatalytic systems chemical clocks because they do not quickly reach a steady state. They just simply persist and repeat. As chemicals react with each other and then react again and again, concentric and rotating spiral waves are produced that often endure for hours before reaching a stable pattern. So that's like throwing the stone in the pond, the concentric spiraling waves. Thermodynamically, these are called dissipative structures. A dissipative structure is any system that maintains its function through assimilating useful energy and dissipating useless energy, usually heat. So all chemical systems, dissipatively structured or not, only continue to operate and make more ordered matter for a short time, and then they fall apart. So like a vehicle has an autocatalytic converter in its tailpipe. It's going to fall apart and disappear. Although energy itself does not disappear, it's irretrievably transformed. Dissipated heat cannot be recovered. Same with the gift. When it's consumed, it can't be recovered. Energy that can do work tends to disappear over time. Snowmen melt and do not reform. Messing up a room is far easier than tidying it up. So in thermodynamics, messiness rules. The energy is dissipated and things fall apart to never reunite is universal truth. And life with its complex order does not violate the thermodynamic truth of inexorable tendency towards disorder. And life always requires its specific source of high quality energy because cells grow and reproduce to form more cells. Once life evolved, the chemistry never ceased. Cyclic life, if provided a continuous source of energy and nutrients, will indefinitely make more of itself. And I'm going to add a caveat to that. It also has its destructive system, so it doesn't outgrow itself. Chemical systems lack cells. They cannot make more cells. And life is a series of cells, or cells, like myself, is a series of cells.
Okay.
Organisms, which are organisms or cells. These must expend energy to continue to exist, yet they do so in non-severable connection to past life. Life has been since inception and with no discontinuity chemically connected to its past. And life is an intrinsically memory storing system. Membranous structures are the foundation of life. And today, the membranous found entities with identity and integrity are cells. So cells work by a two-part system. First, they copy and replicate their genes, or replicate, same difference. This gene-making step is DNA synthesis. DNA copies, and one copy of information is put on reserve. The other copy is translated into RNA. Inside the cell, the RNA directs the fabrication of long-chain proteins. Proteins of different kinds, some 3,000 to 10,000 per cell, for most of an organism's body. Now remember, a cell is so tiny we can't see it without a microscope, but there's 10,000 proteins, 10,000 different proteins in it. Growth ultimately means protein synthesis and water uptake. Together in a fluid-filled membranous bag, DNA, RNA, and protein make the self-maintaining structure of cells. The RNA molecule is much more versatile than its DNA component because given the appropriate chemical milieu without any protein, RNA can autocatically make more itself, yet it is still not a cell. DNA, on the other hand, requires both RNA and enzyme proteins to complete its work of replication. DNA by itself is dead. RNA by itself and DNA by itself and any virus alone are not alive. So they always need reciprocity.
Mhm.
And no life form exists outside a self-maintaining, self-reproducing cell. The most stripped down minimal form of life on Earth is still extraordinarily complex. Just a tiny membrane-bounded sphere, a wall-less bacterial cell requires a cadre of molecular interactions, more than 15 kinds of DNA and RNA, nearly 500 types of protein, and usually much closer to 5,000 types of protein. So all living cells are much more complicated than any gene or virus could be on their own. And cells interchange their parts. They maintain themselves continuously from nutrients and energy drawn from their surroundings. So the book of life is not written in mathematics or English or geometry or trigonometry, any sort of mathematics. It is written in the language of carbon chemistry.
Wow.
And sex. Because sex is tricky. The essence of sex throughout life's evolution is the coming together of complementary gendered cells in fleeting or prolonged union. The core of sex biologically is gender attraction, strong enough to lead to a recombination of genes inside mated cells. So new live beings then emerge that differ in their genetic constitution from the gendered cells that met and recombined. In animal-style sex, half the genes come from the egg, half from the sperm cell. Bacteria, on the other hand, pass their genes with abandon. No 50-50 contribution exists. They just pass them back and forth, and they literally pick up genes a few at a time. Human sex is like that of animals, is a cell fusion sex, meiotic sex, and is the same in animals and plants, and meiotic sex is not optional. Plants and animals and humans do not drink genes from DNA-rich waters. Rather, sperm cells from the male are attached to egg cells from the female, and fusion ensues. The fertilized egg grows by division of its doubled cells, and the cells all stick together as they form the embryo. So without sex, the life history of animals, plants, and humans does not unfold. Programmed death is a non-negotiable consequence of the sexual mode of life. That's the downside of sex. Once the genitals meet on time, conception occurs to be followed by birth as the culmination of predictable in utero development. So we are a kind of Baroque edifice, rebuilt every 2 decades or so, fused and mutating symbiotic bacteria. Our bodies are built from protoctous sex cells that clone themselves by mitosis. Symbiotic interaction or symbiogenesis is the stuff of life on Earth. And symbiogenesis is far more splendid than sex as a generator of evolutionary novelty. Symbiosis or symbiogenesis is a deeper, more permanent, and unique level of fusion. So our strong sense of difference from any other life form, our sense of species superiority, is a delusion of grandeur. And with that, we'll shift from creation to let's go back here. So last week we talked about the 3 and the yin yang. So the Tao is the original creative power of the universe, or the God, the ultimate all, the primordial chaos, singing from which all existence springs forth. It is both formless and infinite, containing the inexhaustible potential for all life and the 3 germs or sparks of form building. This vast non-entity is a combination of the 2 poles, the yin yang or goddess god, that merge into a swirling mass of kinetic power. The singing of the old ones that create a spiraling wave field is this mass of kinetic power. As this field was compressed and expanded by the tension of the goddess god or yin yang, it gathered potency and momentum and began to spin outwards from its own center. So now the 3 became 4. And now we have the compass points of the directions constituted. So from east to west, the winds of inspiration flow, carrying joy, making apparent our gift to be shared. From west to east, the wind that blows away that which is no longer needed shakes its lightning wand. From the south, energy spirals up with the energy to accomplish, and heaven's inspiration spirals down with its intention to accomplish. So the intention must meet the energy for manifestation. And now the vision is realized through the cross. Bordering the circle defines the vastly vast, giving shape to form, up and down, east and west. And as the centrifugal forces of the energy increase, the heavy yin and heavier yin energy separated from the yang, the 4 directions further differentiated to form the horizontal wheel of the 5 elements, the basic components of life on Earth. And we've already been through that. So now we're going to move on to the energy behind this, the orgone energy.
Okay.
And this is really, really important. Probably the most important piece of it all. So the germ, the spark that creates tension for full orgasmic discharge to relaxation, the life force. This energy is present in everything, and it shows stronger effects the more vital the living being is, the living organism is. Living matter has a motility which resembles more that of orgone energy than the bound motility of the particles constituting the atom. So whether the first matter was alive or lifeless, we can assume that life started with the establishment of the pulsating movement, the spark, the tension full of charge, the discharge and the relaxation, the orgasm. This start did not take place in one spot only. Attracting energy and keeping the pulsation and the energy metabolism going seems to be the first actions, that the dancing and the play of living matter, and the first manifestations of the will to live is the characteristic of everything alive. Evolution, remember, it's not this change from higher to lower, it's the simply the yin yang, or the I Ching, the steps of change. That's what evolution is the consists in the complexification of matter, and living matter evolves so that the more complex an organism becomes, the more its sensitivity and consciousness develops, until in man, consciousness becomes reflective. And there is unity in everything, and this unity could be called the uniformity of the primordial energy that contains the possibility of engendering or creating all that is. And yet this primordial energy doesn't know what it wants to create, yet it has a sensitivity enabling to grope its way to what feels good. This is our unconscious, our younger self. The groping creative energy may meet with resistances which can be used as nourishment or stepping stones to further progress, or it can be overcome and destroyed, leaving a mostly destructive strain in the organism, or it can be stopped. The creative impulse can be stopped, which transforms the tension charge into latent energy, which, when later released, is mostly destructive. So the universal truths of orgone is that energy, this orgasmic life force energy, is that it is universal and ubiquitous means it's present everywhere, so omnipresent. It fills all space, however, it fills it in different concentrations, and it's constantly in motion. It has no mass, it's primordial. It's negatively entropic, which means that stronger concentrations attract energy from surrounding weaker concentrations. And it counteracts mechanical entropy and is essential to the creation and maintenance of life. So natural concentrations of orgone tend to form systems that grow, they reach a peak, they decline and dissolve. Such systems can be galaxies, stars, planets, and in our atmosphere, they're hurricanes, tornadoes, and even individual clouds. So all living organisms are orgone energy systems. Concentration and merging or symbiogenesis of individual orgone streams can create matter where no matter previously existed. Existing matter can, through the action of orgone energy, be organized spontaneously into living forms where no life previously existed. Our Earth is surrounded by so this makes me think these two, number 5 and 6, the concentration and merging of individual orgone streams can create matter where no matter previously existed. And existing matter, through the action of orgone, can be organized into living forms where no life previously existed. Makes me think, we have to remember that Wilhelm Reich, who found this orgone energy, was imprisoned by the US. Simply and denied. The US, they stated that there was no such thing as orgone energy, and they confiscated all of his findings. This makes me think this is what's behind Benjamin Fulford and the white hats that say they're committed to creating a rich diversity of life on Earth. I think they've taken his bion research in this organic energy and think they're going to create things in their own image.
I'm not familiar with what they postulate.
I'm not either. I'm just thinking that since he was in prison and they confiscated his materials and confiscated them,
Okay.
that That's probably, I'm just conjecturing at this point. But anyway, so we must be aware of that. You know, individual will is always there, so we cannot be overridden. If we choose to use the orgone energy in this way, it has to comply. It can't deny us.
Okay.
So this is where choice becomes absolutely essential. So our Earth is also surrounded by an orgone envelope moving in the direction of our rotation from west to east. However, it's somewhat faster. So to the east of rainstorms, the direction of the orgone energy is actually reversed. So concentrations of orgone in the atmosphere attract moisture and can result in clouds, rain, or snow. This is why a shaman can make it rain. Because they're connecting with the orgone energy. We're connecting with the orgone energy.
Right.
The free flow of orgone within a living system is a free energy metabolism and is absolutely a condition for the healthy functioning of the organism. Blocking of the orgone energy flow together with characterological resignation is a condition for cancer. Infections and trauma are more easily incurred by an organism with a disturbed free energy metabolism than by one whose free energy is freely metabolized, freely running free. Orgone energy charges and radiates from all living and non-living substances. It also can readily penetrate all forms of matter with varying rates of speed. All materials affect the orgone energy by attracting and absorbing it, or by repelling and reflecting it. It can be seen, it can be measured, it can be felt, and it can be photographed. It is real physical energy. It is excitable, it is compressible, and it is spontaneously pulsatile, capable of expanding and contracting. The orgone charge within a given environment or within a given substance will vary over time, usually in a cyclical manner. And orgone energy is most strongly attracted to living things, to water, and to itself. It's a ubiquitous, again, omnipresent medium, a cosmic ocean of dynamic moving energy which interconnects the whole physical universe, all living creatures, weather systems, and planets, and responds to all its pulsations and movements. Streamings of orgone energy within the Earth's atmosphere affect changes in our air circulation pattern. Atmospheric orgone functions underlie the buildup of our storm potentials and influence air temperature, pressure, and humidity. Yet the mass-free orgone energy is not any one of these things. It's so much bigger than all of them, so vastly huge. This is why we refract it through the 5 elements, then we'll go into the 8, and otherwise it would just destroy us. So the scientist detects the orgone energy as ether or plasma energy and describes it as mechanically as something dead. While the ordinary person feels the life energy, the orgone energy, as love in the sexual embrace and orgasm, or when out in nature or during meditations and prayer, and we mystify it as otherworldly. However, in our living world, orgone energy functions underlie all our major life processes. Pulsation, streaming, and charge of the biological orgone determines the movements, actions, and behavior of protoplasm and tissues, as well as a bioelectrical phenomena. Emotion is ebb and flow, the charge and discharge of orgone within the membrane of an organism, just as weather is the ebb and flow, the charge and discharge of orgone in the atmosphere. So why is this so important? Because there's so many people that say that the energy component is just not necessary. However, Wilhelm Reich showed that orgone energy, and it's been translated so many ways. I believe that this, what Nikola Tesla discovered that powered Colorado Springs, was the same as orgone energy. He didn't name it. It's like what I said couple months ago. It's now been named scalar energy. I believe it's the same thing. This is the result of fragmenting. We don't look at each other's work to say, oh yeah, this, because in this grand web of things, we create switchboards, so to speak. And if these scientists could get together and say, oh yeah, scalar energy is the same thing as orgone, and oh yeah, Reiki is the same thing as orgone, we'd know we're all sourcing the same force of energy, as opposed to, oh, I need to pay this and this person to teach me how to access it, or I need to, it's only called this whole concept of absolutism, which we're so tied to, because William Rand's Reiki is absolute. It can only come from William Rand, and Odin Reiki can only come from Odin, and Angel Reiki can only come from Angel. No, it's all, it's all one and the same. Whether it's called Reiki, whether it's called orgone, whether it's called scalar, it's all the pulsation of the charge, the germ, the spark, the germ. Oh, the germ. What are we most afraid of? Germ, going viral. The germ, the spark of life that leads to the mechanical tension, which is in the case of sex, it's the flooding of the clitoris, the penis, with blood to allow the discharge, the full discharge. And then relaxation to create more.
Wow. Last night I just stumbled upon a website, which I, of course, I went in and tried to learn as much about it as I could, but I still haven't gone through it, all of it. But it's called the resonance science center or something like that. It's resonance science research.
Yeah, I think I've heard of it.
And I found this article that says that the tubulin, which are these organelles inside cells, in the neurons, that they have the same shape. That same shape replicates in all scales. And it was kind of talking about this, where this energy is what allows these shapes are crucial to be the same in all scales, so that this energy can have, I mean, the explanation was really, really hard to replicate for me at the moment, but it's starting to make sense, and it's really starting to open my mind. This, what you just shared, and this that I found, and by no means is this, like you said, I mean, it's just a sales strategy to fragment, and to say this is this, and or this is my method, or this is the name I'm giving this. It's a sales strategy to, like a patent paradigm. Patents. But it's all there, and it just makes me think that we really know very little about how life works, and how prodigious life is, just biology. But that knowledge is there. We just haven't been able to really learn about it because of the patent paradigm.
Right. Because we're so focused on the absolutism, right? And I can't judge anybody for that, because I was just there 8 years ago. It's absolutely this, it's absolutely that. It's that's where our sustenance is, in the inquiry and following the inquiry without an endpoint.
But then with this, all of this in mind, I, as I flow through my life in the there's a word, the daily life, not the, there's the abstracting of life, where you research things outside of the context of your daily flow, and then but there's a lot of wisdom that comes about in the daily flow of your life, and we're taught about that a lot in the Andean schools, and so in this flow of life, I have this in my mind, and I start seeing how I interact with these fields, and how my mind is bending the fields. It's kind of, my mind has the power to move the flow of this organ energy, and I start seeing it, like, on the wall, and how if I see the wall, and if I move my mind, the wall energy kind of moves. It's pretty amazing.
Well, and that's the dimensions, right? If we live in this absolutism that says it's only possibly this or that, instead of this and many things else, we can only see this or that. We can't see the flow. We can't see it. That's why I'll tell people it's you got to come up to, let's imagine we're on an aircraft carrier, and you got to come up to the deck, the captain's deck with me, or you got to come to the top of the Empire State Building with me in New York, and overlook the whole thing, because the view from the basement, from the ground floor, is a whole lot different from the 112th story.
Right.
That's the difference of dimension, is not that we're ascending to someplace different, because at the 112th level of the Empire State Building, we're still on Earth. We've just got a broader perspective.
Wow. Yeah, and it reminds me of when I read about somehow, well, the Toltecs, the Nahual teachers, there was a few of them. They would say that science was making that exactly what you just said, that at least the science we've been given, because then there's this science, which is the hidden science, which is kind of like the real science, but that's not the science we're given. But the science we're given is this thing that locks our minds into this very reduced field of possibilities, and this, we're told the reality is just this, and it's a process of just kind of losing all of the greatness and all of the grandeur of life, and it's a mind trap.
It is. Well, I've told you this in private before. The quotes, ranchers around here are like, Ingrid doesn't know what she's doing. We need to get a hold of her 50 acres of property so we can manage it far better than she can. But we're going to tell you without a doubt, absolutely, alfalfa cannot grow in Oklahoma. And yet Ingrid is growing alfalfa in Oklahoma because she has no clue what she's doing.
And there's a daily life example of that, of all of that, as it manifests. Wow. I'm thinking of the folks watching this, and how, I've seen just very few comments, but there's a comment that said that this is very good, and I would say, hey, do you know somewhere else where this kind of depth of knowledge is being shared, and in the context and congruence of being applied, and not just selling course about it, right? And that's what, I just want them to appreciate how how special this is. It's really, really special. And I know they're seeing that. And that's why we're getting a lot of views on Vimeo, because
Yeah.
people are coming back and they're watching this and they're interested. It's not entertainment, so it's not like it's never going to be a viral thing. Oh, everybody's going to want to watch it, because it's not entertainment. Only like stupid stuff gets viral. The real good stuff, you know, they get seen, but by a very few, and very few people have as well the kind of the openness and or the patience or the self-love to actually learn, to actually slow down their anxious minds and listen to, you know, to the greater knowledge. And so here it is, and it's gonna continue here. I think then is that all you had, Ingrid, for
Yeah,
today?
that's all I have. I thought I'd prepared a lot more than that.
It's always a whole lot. I mean, man, isn't it? Is it, to me? It's like it takes me the whole week for me to. I mean, this resonates the whole week. Everything you share here, it just sticks to me. I process it. That's the way I learn. When I learn stuff, I really take my time, and it's there, and that's an example of real learning, when you're not trying to kind of capture the memory of something so you can put it on a test.
Yeah.
Rather,
And
you're actually
then jump it.
absorbing it. You're actually, you know, thinking about it and seeing it in real life.
Yeah.
So it's a whole lot you're giving us right now. A lot of work, a lot of information, and it's greatly appreciated. And I hope someone watching this, if they appreciate it, that they can either participate or contribute in some kind of way. And if so, well, you can contact us. You know where to contact us. I'm not going to do any publicity.
Yeah.
So what's the
Yeah.
next show going to be about?
Still the same. We're going to go further down the creation branch, and we're going to back up a little bit and go back to the three and talk about the three sparks, the three fires of form building, the three germs of form building, along with the three consciousness bodies, and tie it together with what I presented before about our subconscious, our conscious, and which in Hawaiian is the ku, the lono, and the aumakua. Marry these together a little bit more, because one of the whole big purposes of Aloha Aini Dao living is to say firmly yes to the dance of the true marriage of heaven with earth. Because if heaven accepts earth, heaven has to if heaven says to earth, I love you, without any reservation, it has to accept earth's sexuality, earth's sensuality.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Right. So we're truly marrying heaven and earth, spirit and matter again, merging spirit with matter again, where it belongs. Saying yes to heaven merging with earth, and living as fully materialistic beings, not consumeristic, mechanistic, but fully materialistic, mystic beings, because you cannot have mysticism without materialism. We have to be real. We have to be embodied to be a mystic.
Mm-hmm. We're back into fertility, because we were sterilized. We were kept sterile, and now we can become fertile again,
right,
and real again.
Yes.
Alive.
Yeah.
That's amazing. So how about something about the three sparks? Do you mind me titling something like that?
Let me think about that and get to you tomorrow.
Okay. Alrighty.
It'll be more of creation. We'll go a little bit further down the creation branch before we get into embryology, because once we finish with the three, I want to talk more about the pentagram, the five, because there's the five creates a 5-star, a pentagram, right? Mm-hmm. 5 elements creates the 5 points star, the pentagram. And there's lots of beyond the elements, there's lots of 5-star pentagrams that we can work with to bring ourselves to full harmonization. And then we'll go into the embryology. We'll start into embryology, and with embryology comes the 8, the Bagua. And we're somehow going to marry this. I don't know yet how I'm going to marry this, but I know I'm going to marry it.
So there's the invitation. We are going for a 96th session, almost 100 sessions. We're probably not going to miss it, so don't miss it.
Right.
And with that being said, I wish everyone an awesome night, evening, or morning, wherever you are. And please send send some love on the comments or something.
Yeah.
See you next time.
Yeah.